requesting approval of deployment of Kenya Defense Forces, KDF,
to move that this
to the
House
East African Community Regional Force,
report
to the Democratic Republic of Congo,
Honorable Speaker, on Thursday, 3rd November,
42, subsection
never
4,
been a chair,
provisions of
learning the
Article
ropes.
248 of the Constitution,
Honorable Speaker, on
and Section
3rd
18C
November
and Section 32,
2022, you conveyed a
of the Kenya
message to the
Defense
House
Forces
from the
Act
National
2012.
Executive
Honorable Speaker,
requesting
the
approval
committee
of deployment of Kenya
has
Defense
considered
Forces,
the request by the
KDF,
executive
to the East
requesting
African
for the approval of the
Regional
deployment
Force,
of Kenya Defense Forces
to the Democratic Republic of Congo,
Regional
pursuant to
Force,
Standing Order
to Democratic Republic of Congo, pursuant to the provisions of Article 248 of the Constitution, Section 18C and Section 18C, 36 and 2A of the Kenya Defense Force Act 2012. Honorable Speaker, 2012. Article 240 of the Constitution establishes the National Security Council, whose functions under the Constitution in relation to the matter for deployment is with the approval of Parliament. Underline, deploy national forces outside Kenya for regional or international peace support operations or other supports. The Commission takes cognizance of the fact that Kenya is a member of the United Nations, the African Union, the East African Community, and being aware that the DRC joined East African Community just this year on April 2022 and is now a fully fledged member East African Community just this year on April 2022 and is now a fully fledged member Madam Speaker,
East African Community just this year
of the envisaged regional force is jointly planned and conduct operations the armed forces of the DRC of the envisaged regional force in joint area and conduct operations the armed forces of the DRC of the envisaged regional force in joint area and conduct operations armed groups in Eastern DRC and support further regional force in joint area maintenance of law and order in Eastern DRC. The mandate and support enable the regional force to support in joint area maintenance of law and order in Eastern DRC. The mandate to enable the regional force to continue humanitarian relief to populations affected by activities of armed groups, IDPs, continue and support the programs of disarmament, community integration, and stabilization of peace. Madam Speaker, the peace in DRC is and instability in DRC. Kenya being an anchor in the African state and pivotal part in peace process must be involved in bringing stability and peace in the Democratic Republic of Congo. When the Ministry of Defense appeared before us, we took time to interrogate why we really need our officers in the Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm sure many, Madam Speaker, even in this House, will ask why we will continue to send our officers for missions and what will be the benefit of this country when we send our missions abroad. Democratic Republic of Congo is a key partner in the East African community, and as Kenyans, we have several interests in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We have banks. We are continuing to open bilateral agreements that will enable some of the agreements that we have in the East African community be domesticated in the Democratic Republic of Congo. For instance, you cannot, in the current constitution, the Democratic Republic of Congo, lease land if you are not Congolese. These are some of the things that the East African community treaties and agreements will be able to open up. And we have these matters domesticated to allow even Kenyans to operate in the Democratic Republic of Congo. And we already have our domesticated to allow even the Democratic Republic of Congo in the Democratic Republic of Congo is as good as we already have our domesticated to allow even the Democratic Republic of Congo. Having received the request for approval of the deployment of the Kenya Defense Forces, the regional force analyzed both oral and written submissions made before the committee and appreciated the applicable legal regimes at the United Nations, the African Union, the East African Community, and the country level. The committee observed as follows. Honorable Speaker, the deployment request had complied with the relevant legal provisions in the UN Charter Assembly is Kenya shilling 4 1.451 billion caters only for the initial 6 months envisaged in the deployment. Madam Speaker, the Kenya Defense Forces and the Kenya Army are anticipating that we should be able to have, in a very short time of 6 months, under the plan that brought stability in the Democratic Republic of Congo, and the plan, therefore, because like any other strategic move, we expect our officers to be there for only 6 months. In an event that it will spill over, and that is in case the troops stay on, the annual cost implication will be approximately 5.5 billion to 6 billion. It's, however, envisaged that international financing may be secured for the operation, and if it materializes, the Cabinet Secretary will appraise the committee accordingly. I am informed that there are talks with other international, the United Nations, and many other organizations who are willing to finance this operation in the Democratic Republic of Congo. But for the short term, all the countries that are of East African community that have sent their troops to the DRC will initially cater for their costs, and which we have estimated to be 4.4 billion in the short term, and that is in 6 months. And if it escalates and there's a spillover of our time there, it will go up to 5.5 billion to 6 billion. Honorable Speaker, the East African Community Regional Force to the Democratic Republic of Congo has peace enforcement mandate, unlike the United Nations Organization Stabilization Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, MONUSCO, which had only a peacekeeping mandate. This one, Madam Speaker, will like to emphasize that our mission, this one that we are doing now, is going to enforce, our organization is going to be stabilization, unlike the other one. Our officers are going to be lightly armed than what we had before with MONUSCO, and peacekeeping forces will be lightly armed, and they will use minimum force and only in exceptional cases. Possibly that is why it explains the very slim budget that has been requested by the Ministry of Defense. Madam Speaker, having reviewed the request for approval of the deployment of Kenya Defense Forces to East African Community Regional Force to the Democratic Republic of Congo and considered it in the context of the East African community, the legal framework on peace, security, Article 248 of the Constitution of Kenya and Section 18C, 1, Section 36(2)A, and Section 37 of the Kenya Defense Forces Act number 25 of 2012, the committee recommends that the National Assembly approves the deployment of Kenya Defense Forces to the East African Community Force to the Democratic Republic of Congo. So we took our time as our committee. We've observed concern of several members in terms of how our officers are kitted, the equipment that our officers are going to use. There was a concern from several members within the committee and outside the committee that we already have our officers in Somali, our officers who many of them have lost their lives, and yet again we are sending our officers to the Democratic Republic of Congo for the same exercise of peacekeeping mission. And I will want to say, Madam Speaker, that sometimes it's very easy to say, let us remain peaceful in our country, take care of our interests, and let our officers stay in the country. We will save cost, we will save life, and we will be perfectly okay. But that is not the case. We must secure our region. Many of you might not understand, but Kenya continues to play a huge role. Many countries within the East Africa community look at Kenya as a father figure, especially when there are issues. Kenya many times has been called upon by many countries to try and step in when we've had conflict in our region, and this one is no exception. DRC is perfectly within the East African community. DRC is part of the East African community. We will want to work with them in many other bilateral and multilateral agreements. And the only way we can do that is, first of all, by engaging and making sure that the Democratic Republic of Congo enjoys considerable stability and peace. May I, therefore, Honorable Speaker, take this opportunity to express my gratitude to the committee members for their resilience and devotion to duty, which made the consideration request to deploy the KDF to the DRC successful. May I also appreciate the Office of the Speaker and the Clerk of the Assembly for always providing guidance and direction to the committees in the discharge of their mandate. I further appreciate the Ministry of Defense for the engagements with which the committee during the consideration of the request. Finally, I commend the Secretariat for exemplary performance in providing technical and logistic support to the committee. Because I will want as many members as possible to have their voice on this matter, Honorable Speaker, I beg to move, and I call upon Honorable Major Retired Bashir to second my motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I stand here to support and second this very important motion, which seeks to deploy the Kenya Defense Forces to the East African Regional Force, the Republic of Congo. This deployment is very, very critical. As you are well aware, the situation in DRC threatens peace, security and stability of the Great Lakes region, the Horn of Africa, and the larger East African region. This is something that is likely to affect our peace here in Kenya. But more important, that DRC is a member of the East African community, and therefore anything happening within that region still spills over to the rest of the region and the whole of Africa. The deployment of the KDF to regional force is aligned strategically with Kenya's national interest. It will enhance the country's ability to not only respond to threats emanating from the Great Lakes region, but also help to mitigate threats to Kenya's stability and thereby enhance the security of its citizens. Honorable Speaker, remember Kenya has participated and still does in a number of peacekeeping operations. They have done perfectly well, recognized in the whole world, and the same now has come back home, whereby Kenya feels that its neighbors, and one of its partner states, requires its assistance. Kenya is also a member of the United Nations Security Council as a non-permanent member, and therefore has an obligation and a mandate to ensure that there is safety and security in the region. Honorable Speaker, DRC is a complex situation currently. It is home to 100 armed groups, including the famous M23 rather. And this is likely to affect the safety and security of everyone in parts of East Africa, parts of Horn of Africa. As we speak now, the conflict in DRC began way back in 1996, and so far has claimed over 6 million lives. That tells you how difficult it is to operate in that area. But what is so different about this issue? That we have participated in peacekeeping operations before, but this one is a bit different because we are going to deploy our troops to enforce peace. There's a difference between peacekeeping and peace enforcement, and therefore some of the equipment that our troops are going to use is not the same as what they have used before in other peacekeeping operations. And therefore, it is going to enforce peace in that part of the region. But what is our interest in this matter? The first interest is that we want peace and stability in East African community. Two, as Kenya, we also have interest to ensure that our people who live there in terms of businesses, in terms of our banks, are safeguarded and do businesses. If the stability in DRC Congo we will equally benefit from the economic activities that will take place if peace prevails. Our port of Mombasa will be used by DRC to ensure that its people are equally happy with the transportation of goods and services. But the most important part is that DRC is now part and parcel of East African Community. They joined this year, yes, but we cannot just look at them and see them as just wasting away in terms of conflict. 1996 to this date is a long period of time, and therefore we want to ensure that as brothers, as neighbors, we partake in the issue of ensuring the stability in this area. Honorable Speaker, my chairman has alluded to the fact that the initial deployment will incur additional funding from the exchequer. Yes, that is very true. But remember, all the other countries that are supporting or sending troops to this force, including Rwanda, including Uganda, including South Sudan, including Tanzania, are all getting involved in ensuring that their resources and their funds are utilized. So it's not just Kenya that is sending their troops on their own, using their own funds, but is something collectively being done through the East African Community. But what will happen after probably initial deployment of six months or 1 year? We are likely to attract funding, and therefore the exchequer pressure will likely to go down. But the most important part is that for security, it's normally expensive, it's never cheap, and therefore we need to take all the necessary precautions to ensure that our neighbor, which is a member of the East African Community, is equally stable. Honorable Speaker, Kenya has done perfectly well in previous peace missions. This is, however, a bit different. As I said before, it's a peace enforcement mission. And to ensure that our troops are comfortable in terms of their own safety, as they provide security to the people of DRC, then it calls upon Kenya and the government of Kenya, for that matter, to ensure that our troops are well equipped, our troops are well taken care of, and that is why some of the additional funding, which will mostly go to issue of equipment, is very, very necessary. Honorable Speaker, this conflict, as I said, started in 1996. But with the initiative of the East African Community to come together and contribute troops, then this is likely to ensure that the conflict comes to a stop. You know, in DRC, we have proxy wars. A lot of players, both ethnic, geopolitics, and everything takes place in DRC Congo. The most important good thing about this is that Kenya does not share a border with DRC. And therefore, the safety and security of our troops, or the trust that the players in that conflict will have, is very high. And so Kenya is expected to play a very big leading role to ensure that the stability in DRC, and to that effect in the whole of East Africa and the Horn of Africa. So with those many remarks, I want to ask this House to ensure that this motion is passed, and I therefore second. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable members, I wish to introduce to you a delegation consisting of staff from the National Assembly Service Commission of the Parliament of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who are seated in the Speaker's Gallery. The delegation comprises of Mr. Ikaro Laki, who is Secretary to the Commission, Ms. Lipende Alufuke, Director Planning, Research and Information Technology, Ms. Hamed Fatima Binta, Director Administration and Employee Relations, Mr. Hamed Malami, Director Procurement and General Services, Ms. Muluma Janet Jesse, Director of Public Affairs, Mr. Ikeji James, Director Zonal Offices and Legislative Aids, Mr. Odo Innocent Ayema, Director Finance and Accounts, Mr. Ribadu Ismaila, Director Promotion and Discipline, Mr. Soipita Alusawala, Director Establishment Records and Training, Ms. Bintube Waziri, Director, Appeals and Legal Services, Mr. Omori James, Deputy Director, Information Technology. Honorable members, the delegation is visiting the Parliament of Kenya to engage with the Secretariat of the Parliamentary Service Commission with an aim of, amongst other things, sharing knowledge, experiences with their counterparts on various subjects. Honorable members, on my own behalf and that of the National Assembly, I welcome them to the National Assembly and wish them fruitful engagements during the course of their stay in Kenya. Thank you. Okay. Members, I now wish to propose the question. That taking into consideration the recommendations of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations in its report on the request by the National Executive regarding the deployment of the Kenya Defense Forces to the East African Community Regional Force to the Democratic Republic of Congo, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 9th November 2022, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 240(8)(a) of the Constitution and Sections 18(c) and 36(2) of the Kenya Defense Forces Act 2012. This House approves the deployment of the Kenya Defense Forces personnel to the East African Community Regional Force to the Democratic Republic of Congo for peacekeeping operations. Will as many as of these, not yet, sir. What is your point of order, Honorable Dr. for Endebess?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm standing under Standing Order 97(1)(a) on limitation of debate that, Madam Speaker, we limit it to 5 minutes instead of 10 because so that we allow more members to be able to participate in this debate, considering that our Kenya Defense Forces are going to the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is a country within the East African Community, and we need also, the time is limited for this debate. And so we want to reduce it from 10 minutes to 5 minutes and 10 minutes for the leaders. So, Madam Speaker, I think that will be fair enough for many members to make their contributions. Thank you.
Is there consensus that we can put the question? Can I now proceed to put the question? Honorable members, that notwithstanding the resolution of the House of Wednesday, 12th October 2022, this House resolves to further limit the debate on the motion under Order number 11 as follows: that every member speaking shall have 5 minutes, except the Leader of Majority and minority parties, who shall each have 10 minutes. Will as many as of this opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as of the contrary opinion say no? The ayes have it. Honorable Member for Nyando.
Honorable Speaker, I thank you very much for the opportunity. I also recognize that Democratic Republic of Congo is a new kid on the block as so far as East African community is concerned, and we wholeheartedly welcome them into the bloc. Honorable Speaker, the violence that has been in the Democratic Republic of Congo is not a new phenomenon. It began in the year 1996 and 1997, a war that was christened the African First World War. And therefore, we are concerned as a nation each time there is chaos anywhere, because chaos in one part of the world is chaos everywhere in the world. And therefore, we support the intervention not just by Kenya, but many other countries that are getting involved into this, But in introspect, Honorable Speaker, whereas we support Kenya's timely providential intervention, our constitution wasn't written in vain. Honorable Speaker, we understand that this House ought to make very clear the approval for any member of the Defense Force to get involved into any war with any country. But here we are called upon to sanitize what has already happened. We acknowledge that there is war in Congo, and it is not a new war. Just as I had said, it started in the year 1997, 1996, and therefore our soldiers are already holed in Democratic Republic of Congo, but now we are called upon as a House to move retroactively to the Constitution, Honorable Speaker, and this is something that we have to carefully look into. It should not be lost to us, Honorable Speaker, that 15 years ago, the Kenyan Defense Forces invaded Somalia in the name of...
Order. The leader of majority is on a point of order. What's your point of order, Honorable Chungwa?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I really don't want to interrupt the member for Nyando, but Honorable Speaker, the member for Nyando is serving his second term and is very clear on the provisions of Article 248 of our Constitution. And he's just pretended that we are now debating this motion, Honorable Speaker, to sanitize what has already happened. And he is well aware, if he was listening to the chair, that the forces are not yet deployed. What the motion is seeking to do is to approve that deployment. Honorable Speaker, is dangerous when the member of Nyando, who is a very seasoned member, misrepresents what is before the House to the country. Because we are live on TV, and he may not portray the House to be sanitizing anything. We are only moving a motion for approval, and he only then can either support or disapprove the motion, but he cannot say we are sanitizing what has already happened, and it has not happened until the House approves.
Yes, what's your point of order, the Honorable?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. The member for Nyando has actually made a very reckless statement that the Kenya Defense Forces invaded Somalia. I think that's on the Hansard, and it's a very serious allegation. Can the member substantiate or withdraw that statement? Because making that kind of statement is unacceptable as a country.
Order, honorable members. I don't think the tradition has changed. We are discussing matters that concern the armed forces of this country, which is a very powerful strategic issue. Ordinarily, if my memory serves me very right, this should have been done in camera. But now that it's not being done in camera, the chair is not going to allow this House engaging in a detailed format the discussion of our armed forces. So there's a motion before you, and this motion is approve or disapprove. We do not want to go into details of matters that are essentially of security nature and national security nature, and the chair, order, honorable member, order, of a national security nature. So under the circumstances, please confine yourselves to exactly what is before the House.
Honorable Speaker, I hope that I will recover my 4 minutes that have been taken away from me. But Honorable Speaker, it is true that under a fortnight ago, our soldiers were flagged off to go to DRC by the president of this country, and together with him were the army commanders. So I think I would be remiss to believe that they are yet to go yet when they have already been flagged out and they are occupying that territory, or rather are in DRC. Honorable Speaker, 15 years ago, our country was called upon to do a similar exercise in Somalia. And before our soldiers went to Somalia, we thought that it was an exercise of walking in, walking out. 15 years down the line, we are still holed in Somalia, and we do not know the number of casualties that have been claimed in that country. And therefore, Honorable Speaker, even as
order, Honorable Member, order. Honorable Member and Honorable Members, for the benefit of all of you, there is a big, cardinal, sanctified, sacrosanct importance in respecting exactly what I told you. You cannot discuss casualties, you cannot discuss weapons, you cannot discuss deaths of our forces. Those are strategic national secrets. The issue before you is very simple. It is, do you approve or disapprove the commitment of our forces into DRC? Order. 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 You know, you might be on a valid point of order, but let me tell you one basic thing you have to learn, which is the ABC of being in Parliament. When the Speaker is on his feet, you silence and freeze. It's not me who wants it to be that way. It's the tradition of this August House. Honorable members, I will allow a few people to contribute on whether we should send them or not, without discussing things that are essentially important strategic secrets that can never be discussed. Order. Order. And I don't want to come back here and start my being a member of the Speaker's panel by sending some of you out of the House. But if it's going to require, I'm going to send you out of the House. So order, honorable members. Can we have one or two? Can you finish? And stick to exactly what I've said.
All right, Honorable Speaker. I don't know why the incessant disruptions when I think I'm very logical in my presentation, Honorable Speaker. But because you have said we should not aspect of this exercise, Honorable Speaker, and that relates to cost. Honorable Speaker, on a daily basis, you look at our TVs, you see nothing but desperation. You see drought ravaging across this country. You see people dying. You see livestock dying, Honorable Speaker, and we are losing so much. And our country, I think, has already made an appeal to several countries to help us cushion the suffering Kenyans against the calamities, Honorable Speaker. But again, on the flip side, we have some money to take our soldiers somewhere in a war that this country has absolutely no role to play, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, you know, let's be prudent in our management of the little finances that we have. In fact, the Deputy President of this country said that they only received, or rather found, 93 million shillings. Out of 93 million shillings, we have already sent soldiers abroad to go and fight in wars that we have absolutely no role over, Honorable Speaker. We also understand, Honorable Speaker, that America, which is a superpower, has since sent soldiers in Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and many other countries, Honorable Speaker, and that has never solved the problems beneath the discord in these countries, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, we have to be very careful as a country, even as we want to put our soldiers in the harm's way. And I finish by saying I oppose a war that Kenya has no role at all. We just heard about insecurity in Awendo, in Nairobi, with border riders and many other places. Honorable, this is an unjustified intervention in a country.
Order, honorable members. Order. Honorable Memuse, I was going to give you an opportunity to contribute, or you still insist on a point of order? Yeah, proceed. Yes, what's your point of order, Honorable Memuse?
I'm on a point of order. Honorable Speaker,
yes.
My point of order
yes.
is just a request.
Yes.
Honorable Speaker, I'm a member of the Defense and Foreign Relations Committee. And Honorable Speaker, I wanted to request that you give a few of us to guide the House.
Order. I have taken note of that, and
Yes.
you have the floor. Proceed.
Okay, thank you. Honorable Speaker, you see, the honorable member who's just contributed has raised issues that would rather have been guided by a member of that committee. But let me say this, Honorable Speaker, that the Cabinet Secretary for Defense, Honorable Dwale, appeared before the committee. And we had certain issues as a committee, some of which the Honorable Member for Nyando has raised. One of the issues that we had, Honorable Speaker, as a committee, was whether the deployment had been done, yes or no. And I want to confirm to this House that deployment of our soldiers has not been done. That is awaiting approval of this House. That is important to note. Honorable Speaker, the other issue that we were concerned about is whether the deployment of our soldiers was going to follow our constitutional requirement, which is stated out in Article 240, subsection B of the Constitution, that before deployment of our soldiers, the executive must seek approval of this House. And we were satisfied by the presentation of the Cabinet Secretary that having not sent our defense forces out, they've come back to this House to seek approval. So as members debate, you need to know that our forces have not been deployed. They are still here. They are waiting for the approval of this House. Honorable Speaker, other issues that we raised is, do we have an exit strategy as we go into Congo? Because we raised the issue of our defense forces going to Somalia, yeah? And we probably would have, we felt as a committee that we went to Somalia without an exit plan. And that is why 15 years down the lane, we are still in Somalia. And the team that presented itself before the committee gave us an elaborate strategy of our exit. We even have a timeline of going to Congo and getting out. And we have a plan B of what if that plan doesn't work. So in terms of an exit strategy, we have a strategy. Honorable Speaker, one of the other concerns that we had as a committee was the finances. Did we have the money to finance our troops to go into Congo? And before we answer that question, Honorable Speaker, it is important for this House to know that Congo is a strategic trading partner for Kenya. So before we say we have the money or we don't, we need to have it in our minds that it is a strategic partner. Most of our financial institutions are in Congo, and they're the leading institutions in Congo. And the issue of money, yes, we have the money because we are not going into it alone. When the chair of defense was moving this report, he clearly stated that we have partners who are going to also finance this. So yes, as a country, we are facing a financial crisis. We are aware. I come from a community, a pastoral community, that our livelihoods have been wiped out. The government is trying what it can, appealing for food for our people, giving food, trying to buy animals. So I don't think that we are doing this alone. And just winding up, Honorable Speaker, Congo is one of the richest countries in the world, not just in Africa, in the world, in terms of its mineral resources. Honorable Speaker, Congo being a new entrant to East African community, it is of strategic importance that Kenya plays a role in stabilizing this country. With all those remarks, Honorable Speaker, I support this report. Thank you.
MP for Kwanza, Ferdinand Wanyonyi. Mr. Speaker, point of order, Honorable. What's your point of order? You are on a point of order. Okay, proceed with your point of order.
And knowing how important the issue is, I want to call upon this House to bear with us and agree on point of order 95 that you ask this House to say yes or no. Those are I want to find out, because he has given out all the facts on the whole thing.
Order, 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 order. That's not a point of order. Order, order, order. Honorable Nyonyi, order. Honorable members, even, order, order. Honorable members, order. Honorable members, the fact that I am very categorical on the discussion of matters of national interest and national security, you could discuss all those ones, but you demand to have that session in camera. When the media is taken out, everybody else is taken out, it's only members of parliament. And the handset is switched off. You understand my point? So in future, if you want to discuss things that are very important regarding our armed forces, our intelligence services, whatever it is, you can demand to have that discussion in camera. So the MP for Kitutu Masaba, what's your point of order?
Honorable Speaker, I have listened to the presentation by the various members, and I've listened to your statement, especially the last statement, in view of the fact that we are unable to debate the merit of the deployment, in view that we are unable to debate the exit strategy. Is the debate, I'm of the opinion, the debate is in vain. That's why I support the Honorable MP for Kwanza that we invoke a standing order 95 and call the mover to move in respect of the sensitive nature of the matter. Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yeah,
order.
It is in vain, it's useless. Yeah? Yeah.
Order, 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 order. That standing order itself is when the debate is by and large exhausted, and in which you then ask the mover to reply. But I have given the floor to the Member of Parliament for Kitutu Masaba. Proceed, Honorable Member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand as a Member of Parliament who's actually lived in the Congo for the last 14 years. Mr. Speaker, first of all, I'm not understanding when some members are talking about exit strategy. Our armed forces are not going to war. They are going as peacekeeping mission. An exit strategy is whereby we are going to war. This is different. We are just going to assist a friendly nation attain peace. Mr. Speaker, I think the questions we should be asking is where our forces going to be stationed, because Congo is a vast nation. The war in Congo is mainly centered in the Kivu region, the Ituri, Beni belt. What is our interest around that area? Because when we say we have investment in the banking sector, Kenya is there in the banking through Equity Bank, and very soon KCB. Equity Bank took over BCDC, a bank mainly within the major towns, that is Goma, Lubumbashi, Kinshasa, and Kisangani. There is no war in those areas, so we need to say that our peacekeeping mission is mainly going to assist a friendly nation attain stability, but not really to protect our business interests, because our business interests are not at risk. But as a friendly nation, we also have to draw rules on what our forces will be there to do, so that we do not sow a relationship of an already good relationship. We should not mess up the relationship. We have very many Kenyans living in the Congo. I have been there for the last 14 years. It's generally a very friendly nation to Kenya. So sending our peacekeeping forces there is not a bad thing, but we need to have the rules. Exactly what will be our mandate, our forces, what will be the limitation, what will they be there to do, and are we sure that after the 6 months
will lead our forces back, because the country has been having instability within that region for so many years. Are we saying that within 6 months, the Kenyan forces will have done some magic and sorted out the problem? The answer is no. So let us present facts and say, we are going there for the unforeseeable future, as long as Kenya, we have interests, of protecting and assisting a friendly nation achieve a peaceful and a cohesive country called Democratic Republic of Congo. I listened to the move of the motion, the chair. You can lease land in Congo. It's not correct to say you cannot. As a Kenyan, we can go to Congo, invest in Congo. But let us not mess that up by sending soldiers without clear guidelines on what they are supposed to do. Because the moment that happens, then we'll have a country that is saying we are interfering in the internal matters. Mr. Speaker, I would like to support that we send our forces there, so I support the motion, but clearly let this House or the Committee in Defense set the guidelines for our troops. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Ordinarily, when a member rises on his own place and invokes Standing Order number 95, the chair, under those circumstances, has to put in the question. Is the House to decide whether they want to ventilate more or whether they want to bring this motion or to an end? So, honorable members, order. The motion before us is for the mover.
Aliuliza tu ni ya nani.
For the mover,
but I think along the way I can realize ni yako.
Will as many of that opinion say aye? Will as many of the contrary opinion say no? Ayes have it.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Before I reply, I would like to donate 3 of my minutes to our Majority Leader, Kimani Ichung'wah.
Honorable Speaker.
Yes. Majority Leader, proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I just want to respond to a few issues that have been raised and take great exception to some of the things, and thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the guidance you gave, because the Honorable Member for Nyando, the Honorable Jared Okello, was really getting out of line in terms of the issues he was raising. And it's good to mention the things he was mentioning, Honorable Speaker, but in a closed-door meeting, as you have guided. And there are also things, Honorable Speaker, that the Honorable Jared Okello should understand are things to say in funerals somewhere in Nyando, not on the floor of Parliament, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, on the issues raised by the Honorable Clive, the member for Kitutu Masaba.
Honorable Member of Parliament for Nyando, what's your point of order?
Honorable Speaker, this flippant and disdainful characterization of one Nyando MP is unacceptable. Honorable Speaker, you did give a very clear indication that in areas where we touch on casualties, we should request to put everything on camera. That therefore means that whatever was saying was not trivial, but it bordered on security. And therefore, I cannot be victimized for only presenting myself very ably so, and you were in sync with my deliberations, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, this guy, this member of Parliament, the Majority Leader, must withdraw forthwith and stop characterization and victimization. And this is just but vengeance in a government that he supports, that I do not support.
Order. MP for Nyando, order. Proceed, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. There is even nothing to respond to from what the Honorable Jared Okello is saying. I think more important issues were raised by the member for Kitutu Masaba, the Honorable Clive, who incidentally has lived in Congo, as he has said, in DRC, and is therefore appraised of issues that pertains to the situation in DRC. And it is indeed true that there are Kenyan investments in the Congo. Equity Bank has invested there. Many Kenyans, including the honorable member, I think, is also an investor in the Congo. And it is true, there are certain regions within DRC that are very secure and that do not need a peacekeeping mission. However, if there is no intervention in the areas that are peaceful today, the militia groups that are operating in the Congo may overrun the DRC forces and even endanger those strategic investments that investors in this country, including the member for Kitutu Masaba, have made in the DRC. He has also asked, what is the particular mandate of this force, Honorable Speaker? And I just want to tell him, it is a peacekeeping initiative, it is a peace initiative that has a two-track approach, which comprises of a political and military processes. And the military process, or the military forces, are just there to create an environment that is conducive to facilitate a political process to pacify the entire country, so that even those of us who have invested there from this country, our investments are secure. The force is mandated to jointly plan and conduct operations together with the DRC forces, the Armed Forces of the Democratic Republic of Congo, FARDC, in the joint areas of operation. So they will not go to the areas that are secure, that are peaceful areas where there are no issues. It is only in those areas that militia forces and armed groups are operating in. Two, they will support FARDC to concretize and maintain law and order so that, again, your investments are secure. They will also support DRC in collaboration with humanitarian agencies, and you are aware that a lot of humanitarian agencies working in DRC are at times unable even to move humanitarian aid to people who have been displaced, IDPs who have been displaced because of the activities of the armed groups. Four, they will support the disarmament, demobilization, community recovery, and the stabilization program. Therefore, I just want to persuade, especially the member for Kitutu Masaba, the Honorable Clive, who is an alumni of the school, he actually looks convinced, Honorable Speaker, that it is in the interest of not just DRC, not just Kenya, but our region. And we must also pride ourselves as a country that we are the big brother in this region. And therefore, we have a responsibility to ensure that we pacify our region and our region is peaceful. Kenyans are very hardworking people, as the Honorable Member for Kitutu Masaba has said. Kenyans are living and working in the Congo. We must ensure that the entire region is safe and secure for Kenyans to be able to transact business. Honorable Speaker, lastly, the African Free Trade Area seeks, and the DRC has recently joined the EAC community, the East African community. The African Free Trade Area also seeks to remove or have a region in Africa, an African Free Trade Area that is free of boundaries or borders, and we can trade across the region. And we want to trade in an area or a region that is pacified, that is peaceful, and where people can operate and work and even live across our region without any hindrance by armed groups. Therefore, I really want to urge the House to adopt or rather approve this motion. We allow our forces to be deployed, and we want to wish our forces all the best as they are deployed to the Congo. We want them to ask them and plead with them to carry themselves out with the respect and honor and dignity that they have carried out themselves in all other peacekeeping missions. As we thank our forces also, and we must note the thanks of the House, and indeed Kenyans, for our young men and women who have given their lives, not only to protecting our own lives and our property in this country, but also in the region. And with that, Honorable Speaker, I support.
Honorable Speaker, and thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, all the members who've contributed to this debate. I really want to beg that many of you have several concerns, believe in our collective wisdom as a committee. We interrogated as much as we could, all the questions that you're asking, and I really want to thank you, Honorable Speaker, for guiding the House appropriately on such matters of national security. That, honorable members, we did our best in engaging with the Ministry of Defense. It is important, like has been alluded by many members, that our officers go out there. We have every reason to gain than to lose in our officers being out there. Our economic potential in the region has been muted by continued violence in Congo. I'm happy with what Honorable Member Clive Kitutu Masaba has actually lived in the Congo, and you've provided such useful insight to the House on why it is important for our team and our security to continue engaging with the Democratic Republic of Congo and for stability there. Just before I conclude, so that many of you might not be aware, recently we've signed several bilateral agreements with the Democratic Republic of Congo, one being handling their cargo on the port of Mombasa. That is such a huge, huge potential for our business people. We have our banks flourishing in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We want as many people from this country as possible to be in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Like Majority Leader did mention, we are a big brother in the region. When you talk about peace in the Western Africa countries, your eye will easily pick on Nigeria. When you talk about peace in the South African region, your eye will definitely pick on South Africa. When you talk about peace in the East African region, Kenya is definitely such a big brother in the region. We will continue, and as I conclude, I want to wish our officers who are being sent to the Democratic Republic of Congo all the best as they go to Congo. We wish them God's grace. It is no mean feat. These are people who are leaving their families behind to go and give peace to other people as the rest of us are enjoying peace in this country. We wish our officers all the best as they engage in that mission. And I would like to request the House to consider this motion and approve for our officers to go and engage in this noble initiative in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move. I beg to reply.
Honorable members, I don't know, you had very short people being the speakers here. What happened? I don't know. I have to keep on bending. I now put the question that taking into consideration the recommendations of the Departmental Committee on Defense, Intelligence and Foreign Relations in its report on the request by the National Executive regarding the deployment of Kenya Defense Forces to the East African Community Regional Force to the Democratic Republic of Congo, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, the 9th November 2022, and pursuant to the provisions of Article 240, Subarticle 8A of the Constitution and Sections 18C and 32(2)A of the Kenya Defense Forces Act 2012, this House approves the deployment of Kenya Defense Forces personnel to the East African Community Regional Force to the Democratic Republic of Congo for peacekeeping operations. As men of opinion say aye. Aye. As men of contrary opinion say no, nay. The ayes have it.
Order number 12, motion, development of a unified national policy on small and micro enterprises, resumption of debate.
Okay. Would I be the same one? Order. The Honorable Joanna Ngeno is not. Proceed. Nice. Proceed, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me this opportunity, and especially coming out of a debate which was kind of hotly contested. Mr. Speaker, I wish to state that my intention on this report on SMEs I was not actually ready to do the debate on this one. But, Mr. Speaker, I would wish to just allow other members to debate on that one. Thank
Proceed.
you,
Is the MP for Mandera East, Honorable Waitan? Do you wish to contribute on this debate?
The motion I wanted, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. The motion I was very much interested in was the deployment of Kenyan forces to Democratic Republic of Congo, but this one, no. Thank you.